Please help me to reach 1,000 subscribers. I never imagined that something as simple as a smile, a laugh, or a glance could stir so much fire in my marriage, but here I am, staring at a life that feels entirely different from the one I thought I had. My name is Serena, I'm 32 years old and I've been married to Daniel for 6 years. To the outside world, we were perfect. The couple that everyone envied, the ones who always seemed to know each other's thoughts without saying a word. But perfection, I learned the hard way, is nothing more than a polished mask hiding a tangled mess of desires, secrets and mistakes. It started innocently, or at least I thought so. I had always been flirtatious, a little playful, nothing serious, just teasing smiles and light touches. Daniel, calm and patient, always watched with a quiet intensity, the kind of intensity that makes you feel seen but also slightly vulnerable. I never realized how much he actually enjoyed it, how much he fed off these tiny moments of attention from me, moments I considered harmless fun. It wasn't until months later that I understood the power those little gestures held, the way they could shift him, pull him closer, and yet simultaneously plant seeds of doubt and desire in ways I never anticipated. The first real turning point came one Friday evening. I had dressed casually in one of those skirts that always made Daniel pause, a shirt slightly loose yet subtly revealing, the kind of outfit that walks the line between innocent and provocative. We were at a friend's dinner, a small gathering, nothing extravagant, but enough for me to feel seen. I laughed at jokes, leaned a little closer than usual, let my hand brush his when no one was looking. Daniel's gaze followed me in a way that sent shivers down my spine. At first, I thought he was simply appreciative of the attention, enjoying the beauty of the moment. I didn't realize he was analyzing every move, storing every look, memorizing each gesture as though they were pieces in some private puzzle only he could solve. Later, in the quiet of our car ride home, I noticed a shift in him. He didn't speak much, his hands tight on the steering wheel, jaw clenched just slightly, the way he always did when something was stirring beneath the surface. I tried to break the silence with small talk, joking about the evening, but he remained quiet, just nodding occasionally. Then he spoke, his voice calm but loaded with meaning. "Do you realize what you're doing when you move like that? When you tease like that in front of everyone?" I laughed, nervously brushing it off. "It's just a little fun, Daniel. You love it, don't pretend you don't." He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he kept his eyes on the road, silence stretching between us like an invisible wall. "Fun?" he finally said, his voice low, deliberate. "That's what you call it? You have no idea what kind of fire you're playing with." His words struck me differently than I expected. There was no anger, no shouting, no accusations, just calm observation, a steady intensity that made my heart pound. I had always assumed he was the laid-back type, the man who could handle anything with patience and grace. But that night, I realized that beneath his calm exterior was a storm I had never fully comprehended. I had been testing boundaries, playing games, thinking it was harmless, and I had no idea that Daniel was quietly calculating, waiting, seeing just how far he would let me push before something changed. The next few days were a delicate dance. I noticed him watching me, not in the casual way he used to, but with attention that made me question every glance, every smile. At dinner, I laughed a little too loudly, leaning toward him, and he reached out, just brushing my hand with his fingers, a tiny, almost imperceptible touch that carried more meaning than I could articulate. It was as though he was saying, "I see you, I feel this, but you have no idea what you've unleashed." It was during a weekend at our cabin that everything came to a head. I had been playful all day, teasing, flirtatious, reveling in the private jokes we shared, but also letting others see, subtly, that I was admired, desired. That night, after a long day of laughter and wine, I leaned over to him, resting my head on his shoulder, whispering one of those seemingly innocent lines that had always made him smile. But this time the reaction was different. He pulled back slightly, just enough to meet my eyes directly, the intensity there unmistakable. "You know you're playing with fire?" he said softly, almost a whisper, but it shook me to the core. "Do you realize how easily the line can be crossed? That everything you do, every little thing, has consequences beyond what you think." I froze, the words sinking in like stones in my stomach. I had thought I understood him, that I knew the depth of our connection, the limits of his patience. But there was a weight in his eyes that I had never seen before, a gravity that made me suddenly aware of just how fragile the balance between affection and destruction could be. I had been dancing on that edge for months, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath his calm exterior, and now I had no choice but to face it. The following week was a series of small, almost imperceptible tests. He watched me as I went about my routines, his gaze following me with quiet intensity. I caught him staring when I laughed a little too freely at work calls, or when I lingered on texts from friends. Each time I felt a thrill, a mix of fear and excitement, knowing that Daniel was observing, calculating, appreciating in ways I couldn't fully comprehend. But I also felt a gnawing tension, a subtle warning that I was entering territory I might not be able to return from.